Hey guys, this is Joshy, and I mostly do game videos, but I'm gonna do a computer video. This is how to install Windows 98 on your VirtualBox. First off, you need a ISO image, which is basically a CD-ROM image of a program. Second off, you need VirtualBox, which is a virtualization tool to emulate any any operating system on your main platform. And thirdly, if you want to get color on the VM, you need a CD-ROM driver image to install the drivers, and I'll provide that all in the description soon. So first off, I'm going to open up VirtualBox, and if you have VirtualBox ready, you can do this too. It might be different on Windows or whatever platform you're using VirtualBox with. I am using a Mac, so some of the key commands will be different to what you're using, depending on what system you're using. So, alright, so I'm going to call this Microsoft Windows 98 SE, because I'm installing 2nd edition and not 1st edition, because I heard that there are bugs in that version. And it will automatically set the 64 megabytes of memory. So basically your RAM, like the computer's memory. So it's going to perform how it's going to work with your computer. So if you want to get the best out of it, if you want to get full max, you can put it at like 512 megabytes. If you want just at the standard, you can just put at 128. Or if you're not going to do much and if you want to do small, you can just put at 64 megabytes. But I'm going to do 128 megabytes because I am doing memory management and I want to have enough memory for my computer. So, alright, so here's this. So basically this is your computer's drive, computer's virtual hard disk, and you can choose what hard disk type you want on down here. And if you want storage on physical hard disk, you can either have it dynamically accumulated, allocated, which basically it will find and organize other stuff on your main hard disk on your main platform, and then trying to find a spot where it can put the virtual hard disk. Or you can either do fixed size, which will automatically set the size that the program you want. So I'm gonna put it at 20 gigabytes, and I think it's possible to. I know it is possible to convert this into a FAT32. I'm gonna put it at 32 gigabytes and then convert it into a FAT32 drive later. I think it's possible to do that. Well, it should be. I don't know. I'm gonna try it after I'm done. Okay. So after that's created, I'm gonna create it. I'm gonna create the drive. And then what I'm gonna do, and you can do this too, is go to the settings. And this is all the configurations that you can do with your virtual machine. You can either record it to or enable encryption. Okay, so this is the stuff that you need to do. Alright, so if you want network, which if you want to connect to the internet, you can press on the network button. Keep in mind that since this is a old operating system from 1999, and in 2006 Microsoft stopped updating the system, which means it doesn't work that much anymore with most applications. When you're logging on to Internet Explorer, most websites will not render correctly because since it's a web browser, uses IE5, and it's also a browser from 1999. Since it doesn't have a lot of HTML5 extensions or any other extensions that support nowadays to get all the technology in the HTML in, and then it won't render correctly. So if you want to try to go on some websites, you can, but just keep in mind though, it will not render correctly because most of the technology inside of the web browser wasn't implemented until now. Just saying. If you don't know what I mean, that means that most of the extensions like HTML5 or Flash Player are not going to work. You can download Flash Player, but that's only going to use for other programs that require it. So if you want to do, so next you can check on the motherboard. The motherboard is basically where it has all the drivers bundledly installed and also the CPU, but the CPU and the VM is going to be virtually processed. Or no, the VM is going to grab your CPU, which my CPU is a Intel Core i5 dual core processor, and it's 2.5 gigahertz with Intel Boost technology. It's gonna grab my CPU and my RAM and then put it into the system, because the VM is in your main computer. Not only that your main computer is being processed, but also the VM is being processed too. So if you have a good amount of RAM, you don't have to worry about it. But if you have a RAM like 4 gigabytes, it's gonna be very slow. So if you have other programs open, then I would recommend you closing them. Alrighty, next. Okay, before we go on, make sure this is enabled, because if it isn't, then it won't work properly. Because on VirtualBox version 4, it wasn't enabled and somehow it didn't work properly. Okay, so I'm going to provide a link to the description for this, and I'm also going to provide a description for the video for this ISO image for the product key. And the product key should be in the description for who published the video. So now, since that's done, you can also check if your network is also, it should be automatically connected with your router, so it won't be that bad. Alright, and if you want to put shared machine folders, you can also put that, but I'm not sure. I tried doing it and I don't think it's working at the moment. But I'm going to try to get it later, so okay. Well, it should work, because it says that it lists all shared folders on the machine, Usenet, use X, and yeah. If you want to customize the user interface, see what you want. You can also do input and output, nice integration, devices debug. You can also configure this if you want to. And that's all for the settings. So now, all you have to do now is double click on the virtual machine, or you can click on it once and then press the arrow that says start. So once you're in the window, you have to quickly press an option before it runs out. So I'm going to boot from CD-ROM, and then it's the same thing for time. I don't know why they have a time remaining. They shouldn't have put that there. Probably because you don't want the computer to be on the same screen and burn up and start to consume power. So I'm going to choose Windows 98 setup from CD-ROM, and you need to choose that too. And it will load up all the drivers required for the setup. It will also detect if your computer has enough memory to install Windows 98, and it should, because it requires at least, I think, 8 megabytes. I'm gonna have to look up how much memory it requires to install Windows 98. Okay, so now you can press Windows Setup now, configure an alkylated disk space, recommended, and enable large disk support, because if it's not over large, if you press no, then if you choose no and press enter for do not use large disk support, Windows 98 will not allow to run. It will not run. But if you choose yes, then it will allow it to run with a computer that's over 512 megabytes of storage, a hard drive. Okay, so now if you choose that, you can restart your computer, set up a restart into boot disk, and the boot disk is the CD-ROM. So you want to choose boot from CD, and then you want to choose start up Windows 98 from CD-ROM again, and it will go to the Windows setup, but it will also format your disk. So after that's being checked, then it will go to this setup and format the disk. And once it formats the disk, it will check if your disk has any errors, and if it doesn't, then you can just press enter after it does, and it will go to the actual setup process. So right now it's scanning for anything. Right now it's going to scan for. Right now it's formatting the disk to get the excess clutter off of your virtual hard disk. Yeah, guys, I had to turn on my TV. So right now, it's going to format any excess blocks on your virtual hard disk or your hard drive, and once it's done, then virtual hard drive, and once it's done, then it's going to check for errors. Then once it's done with that, you can press enter, and it will go to the actual Windows setup. So it's at 50%. On, I'm probably gonna do it in this video. Well, I'm gonna do it in the next video. I'm going to install Windows 98 Service Pack, which is an unofficial one and not from Microsoft, because usually their policy for their support lifecycle, if your if a new service pack for an operating system comes out, the updates will go on for the latest service pack, but it has to require a update on the Windows Update agent. And Windows Update is a utility that provides updates for your system, like security updates, software system updates to resolve problems with registry or your computers, system 32, or any other updates with any extensions on your system. So now it's like I said, it's gonna check for errors after it's done formatting, which is going to do that right now. And it's formatting, but it's actually done. It's just getting the rest of the stuff out. So now, I would check it. Oh, it's after I press enter. So it says setup is preparing to install Windows. Please wait while setup initializes. It's now going to perform a routine check on your system. To continue, press enter. To quit, press escape. And if you want to and obviously you want to press enter, and it's going to do a system check, and once it's done, it will copy all the files for setup, and you're now at the actual setup process. So it says, welcome to Windows 98 setup. Congratulations on choosing Windows 98, the software that makes your computer more powerful, reliable, manageable, and entertaining. With Windows 98, you can connect to the internet quickly and easy, and Windows 98 is even faster to use than Windows 95. Setup will take from 30 to 60 minutes depending on the speed of your computer. To beginning setup, click continue. So it will grab your computer's information and a routine check, and it will make a duration time to see how much your computer will install. So how much time. So it shouldn't take an hour. It should take 30 minutes, because our computer has enough RAM to process this setup. So it's going to take 36 minutes. So this is select the directory where you want to install Windows 98, and since we don't have MS-DOS installed, we're going to choose C:\Windows and click next, and it's going to prepare the directory, and the setup is going to verify if there's enough space to install Windows 98. So this is a setup option screen. If you want to choose typical, you can choose that. You can choose any type. So typical is basically where it gives you the recommended components that's going to be installed into your hard drive while Windows 98 is installed. Portable is basically where it will set up Windows 98 for portable computers. so basically a laptop. Compact is if you want to just have the minimal requirements and not a lot, and some of the optional components won't be installed. And then custom is for advanced computer users who want any feature they want. And since I'm a advanced computer user, I'm going to choose custom. And you don't have to. You can do typical, portable, or compact if you want to. You can just choose any option from this screen. So I'm going to use custom since I'm a advanced computer user. I'm going to choose all the options I want for Windows 98 to use. So I'm going to choose communications, and since there's no dial-up set up in the virtual machine, I can't check that. Virtual private networking, desktop themes. Don't actually use VPN, but I want all the features. So multi-language support, multimedia. I'm gonna choose those. Video compression, system tools. Of course, if I want to fix something, because I'm very good at fixing computers. System Resource Center, and Web TV for Windows. Nah, because I don't have a cable to connect to my computer. Plus, I'm using VirtualBox on my Mac, so there's not much ports. And say my virtual machine. Right, and click next. Click next. Okay, so on this screen, alright, so you can type in your name. And you have to type in this or else you won't be able to move on. So, next up, you can choose your keyboard layout and your regional settings. So basically, your language and what country. And you can also use the keyboard layout about what country you're in. So you can change that by pressing the change button. And then I'm going to click next. And then establishing your location. You can choose any location you want. You can choose what location you live in. And I'm going to choose United States because I live in it. And then now it's going to start copying files to my hard drive. Like basically start to transfer files from the CD-ROM to the virtual hard drive. So I'm going to click next and it's going to start installing. Alright guys, so I'm going to be making a video where I install Windows 98 Service Pack 3 soon. And it's gonna be me installing, modifying my system, and also doing the auto patcher. And the auto patcher is basically where it grabs all the Windows 98 updates and to its end of life support cycle, and it's gonna modify my system. So, but first I have to do a scan disk to make sure there's no cluster on my computer or errors, and defrag it first, and also make a backup before I make any changes, because modifying Windows 98 with the unofficial service pack is not easy at all. It's not very easy. It'll easily grab some errors. And let's talk about computers. First off, what you see right there, what you just saw, is basically is when it says MMX technology. It's basically where if any computer processor like Intel supports MMX technology, or any other processor that supports MMX technology, that basically means that it'll have faster performance, like games for the system, like for Windows 98 or any other system. DirectX is a API, a multifunction API, or a low-level API that cooperates with your computer's hardware. So now it's finished, so I'm going to restart. It's going to restart the virtual machine. And instead of me booting from the CD-ROM, because it's going to do the setup process where I choose the options and then it's going to format my hard drive, I'm going to choose boot from hard disk, and you need to. And I didn't press anything, it's just automatically the time went out and it just chose it for me. So I'm going to put in my name, and then it's going to ask for the product key, and I'm going to put in the product key. You guys can type in the product key I'm typing in, but you guys can use other product keys from the video I'm about to look up right now. And Windows 98 SE ISO. Alright, so the product key I'm typing in. Oh, I was about to say, if the comments were disabled, then I wouldn't be. Well, I can just look up at the video. It wouldn't be hard. Right. So I'm gonna leave the product key for a couple. Well, you guys can look at it afterwards. You guys can look at the product key after I'm done typing it in. Alright, so I'm gonna leave it for a couple seconds so you guys can pause the video and type this in. And alright, I'm gonna click next. Alright, once you guys are done with it, you can unpause it. Well, probably unpause it already. Now, Windows has a new feature. Windows has a feature that was introduced in Windows 95, which came out 3 years before Windows 98, called Plug and Play. And Plug and Play is a feature where it easily installs. It's a feature where Windows detects your hardware easily without even having to worry about trying to find software that will detect your hardware, or you have to configure the settings to check hardware. It'll automatically check if there's any hardware that's in the system. The latest Internet Explorer version that can support this is Internet Explorer 6, which stopped updating in 2014 when Windows XP stopped support, which came out on October 25th, 2001. Okay, there's some occurrences that this will freeze and it won't load. It will just keep blinking, the line will just keep blinking over and over. If this happens, it won't lose any of your data. Just let you install it into a hard drive because it's in the hard drive. So what you can do is power off the machine and then open up the hard drive, open up the virtual machine, and the virtual machine will then the hard drive, then you can boot from the hard drive, and it reopens. It's key if that happens, and it's going to go through the process where it's now setting up your hardware and plug-and-play devices you may have. And then it's going to go through the system configuration to make sure that every file or extension that's with a program is installed and there's nothing wrong or missing. And if there's anything missing, that's where the system file checker comes in. So if you go into your computer's information, you can use the system file checker and then scan if there's any applications that are missing any programs, that are missing any files, or if the files are missing are corrupted. And then the system file checker will prepare those files, and you can use the programs that you want again. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great. Right, now it's updating the system settings by changing the win.ini, which is the GUI interface that you use. It's waiting until it updates. When Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The man answered him, Sir, I have no. See, it's blinking. Windows 98 is my favorite operating system. It's my favorite. And it's actually the first Windows operating system I used, because I didn't own a computer when I was 5 or when I was little. And basically the computer that I have in my old house is for everybody I use in my family, like my brother, my sister, and my mom. So. It is the Sabbath day. It is not lawful for thee to carry thy bed. He answered him, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up thy bed and walk. Then asked they him, What man is that which said unto thee, Take up thy bed and walk? And he that was healed wist not who it was, for Jesus had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. Afterward Jesus findeth him in the temple, and said unto him, Behold, thou art made whole, sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. The man departed, and told the Jews that it was Jesus which had made him whole. And therefore did the Jews persecute Jesus, and sought to slay him, because he had done these things. Alright, then it's going to take less than a minute to install. And now, since it's done, I'm going to press restart now, and it's going to reboot to the desktop. And basically, the Windows 98 setup is completed. So now I can just boot to the hard disk, and it will go to the desktop screen. I'm going to put in my password. And you don't have to do this. You can press cancel and it will go to the desktop. It won't stop you from logging into the system, unlike Windows nowadays. Well, I guess it's to protect yourself from anybody who sneaks into your computer and press cancel and then tries to 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 delete your files. And now your Windows 98 is set it up. Your Windows 98 is installed. The next thing or last thing we need to do is next thing we need to do, because how you guys want to connect to the internet, is to install color. So you want to switch the CD-ROM to the drivers if you have it, and then you want to go to your settings and then press control panel. Then you want to add new hardware, click next again, and if you don't have to um, you don't have to wait for Windows to search your hardware. You can just press no. I want to select hardware from the list. You press display adapters and you press have disk, and then you can get the file extensions from your disk. So I'm gonna choose the D drive since it's what it's stored in. And I'm gonna choose Uni, because if you choose VirtualBox, the screen will be black. Even if you restart, it's gonna go black. So I'm going to choose VBE port, and it's from ANAPA, which it can be supported. And I'm going to click Enable Device, and it's going to enable the display driver. Now it's loading my system, and sometimes it won't be able to. Well, it will detect it, but sometimes it won't work. Like if I put it at C, like it doesn't work. So what I have to do now is I can eject the disk or restart the computer or turn off the computer and then restart it, because sometimes when you enable it the first time it won't detect it. So I'm going to reopen up the virtual machine and it's going to work. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm gonna update the driver. So I'm gonna, if this doesn't work, then you need to right click on my computer and click on properties and then click on device manager, and then you see this. It's sometimes because of the driver that you're using will not, if there's two drivers installed, that means that it won't work, because if you use it at the same time it's gonna be acting weird. So you want to delete one of the drivers you installed, which is the standard VGA card to VGA adapter. It's gonna find it. So you want to, so I'm gonna restart the computer. Okay. So instead of installing another driver, you want to use the standard VGA driver and updating it. Or you can do this. Alrighty, so now it works, and it's going to search for unknown devices, unknown drive, and it's finding all the hardware. And now you officially have color on Windows 98. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to remove this driver. I'm going to update this driver to use the DVD-ROM drive. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to fix it. I'm gonna do this later. I reinstall this driver. So this is working properly. And everything's working fine. So now how to connect to the internet, which most people would like to do. Keep in mind, like I said, this is version Internet Explorer 5. I'm going to show it to you after I set up. So you want to go to the control panel by clicking on start menu, then put your cursor on settings, and then pressing the control panel, which I'm on right now. And then you want to double click on internet options, going to connections, and then click on setup. And then you want to click on I want to set up my internet connection manually. Click on I want to connect through local area network. Click next again. And then if you want to, you can press yes, but if you don't want to, you can press no. And I'm going to press no, so I'm going to click next. And I'm going to click finish. And I'm going to click finish, and it's going to connect me to the internet immediately when that box is selected. And now, since it's open, I'm going to show you the version. This is Internet Explorer 5 from 1999. So, a browser from 1999, a version of Internet Explorer from 1999, with most websites won't render correctly. So now, the zip bar string is basically security information. Since it's not supported anymore, I can't update it. So, and I can't use a Windows Update either, which is a utility which gives out updates for your operating system. And now, I'm gonna mdgx.com. I'm gonna use I'm gonna use that website. And that's it. That's all you have to do now. So this is what you can use to that's how you install Windows 98 on VirtualBox. And if you guys need any help, if you can comment for questions, you can go into the comment section and ask me any questions or say any comments about how I was doing in this video. And leave a like or subscribe. And I'll see you next time. And thank you guys for watching. And see you later.